Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We got some crazy stuff going on this week. It appears that things have leveled up just a bit in the war in Ukraine. Apparently, the Russians fired a hypersonic intermediate range ballistic missile at the Ukrainian city of Dnipro, kind of as a response to the US and the UK's allowing Kiev to strike Russian territory with long-range deep-striking ATACMS, which are basically like missile systems that can do deep strikes into Russia's territory. Pretty much as a result of that, Putin was like, we're going to show them that we can reach out and touch them with ballistic cruise missiles that are hypersonic. The Russian President Vladimir Putin actually, in a televised address, and he said that Moscow struck a Ukrainian military facility with a new medium-range hypersonic ballistic missile known as Oreshnik, and he warned that more could follow.
Will be determined based on the threats to the security of the Russian Federation. We believe that we have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of countries who allow their weapons to be used against ours. And in case of an escalation, we will act as decisively in a mirror fashion. The ruling elites of the countries are nurturing plans to use their military contingents against Russia should be warned. When choosing measures to be used in response, such as the use of systems that was tested recently in Ukraine, will certainly include warnings to civilians to clear the zones that will be targeted, and we will certainly do this.
So he's saying that they would let civilians know that, hey, we're getting ready to use a ballistic missile in that area, so you might want to clear out. That's interesting.
In a transparent fashion. And we do not have any fears that it will reduce the effectiveness of those systems, because there is no way to counteract a missile that flies at 10 Mach, which is 2.5 to 3 kilometers per second.
So what he's talking about, a Mach 10, is a hypersonic cruise missile. So anything that's traveling over Mach 5, which is 3,836 miles per hour, is considered hypersonic, meaning that hypersonic cruise missiles travel at least 5 times the speed of sound. And apparently, the world's fastest missile in the world is the 3M-22 Zircon, a Russian scramjet-powered nuclear-capable hypersonic cruise missile. But that's just what's online. Obviously, if the United States had something like that, it wouldn't be out there because we wouldn't want anyone to know that we had it. But apparently the Army, Navy, and Air Force are all developing hypersonic missiles which can fly at speeds that are greater than Mach 5. So according to the website ssbcrack.com, which is just a website on Google, they rated the top 5 fastest missiles in the world for 2024. I don't know where they got the information from, or if it's accurate or if it's inaccurate. There's probably no way to tell, because I'm sure that every nation's going to try to keep these secrets. Anyway, take that for what it's worth. We'll get into what they state about the top 5 fastest missiles in the world. So the first one that they rate at number 1 is the Avangard, which is a Russian-developed missile system that they say can travel up to speeds of Mach 27 or 32,200 kilometers per hour with a range of over 6,000 kilometers. The next one is the Dongfeng 41, which is a Chinese nuclear ballistic missile that's got a reported top speed of Mach 25 or approximately 30,600 kilometers per hour with a maximum range of 15,000 kilometers. Number 3 is the Trident II, which is a United States submarine-launched precision-guided missile system that they say travels in speeds of exceeding Mach 24 or around 29,604 kilometers per hour with a maximum distance of 12,000 kilometers. Number 4 they rated was the Minuteman III, which is America's Intercontinental Ballistic Missile System. They said that it travels at Mach 23 or at 28,200 kilometers per hour with a maximum distance of 13,000 kilometers. And then number 5 is the RS-28 Sarmat, often referred to as Satan II, which is Russia's heavyweight hypersonic missile. They say that the RS-28 Sarmat can travel up to speeds of over Mach 20.4 or 25,500 kilometers per hour with a maximum range of up to 18,000 kilometers. Again, don't know how accurate that information is. Take that for what you will. It's all Googleable. This is a Googleable website. I would imagine that most of these systems are extremely highly classified in every one of these nations, so it's probably not 100% accurate, but this is what a Googleable search will show you. Let's continue.
Existing anti-missile systems and the anti-missile systems deployed by the United States and Europe cannot intercept such missiles.
Okay, so he's saying that we're not capable of intercepting hypersonic missiles currently. But is he right? Air Force General Glenn D. Van Herk testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee regarding the fiscal year 2024 defense authorization request. And while he was there, he was talking to them about hypersonic missiles and like how difficult they're going to be to detect and counter given the weapon's speed and maneuverability. From what he was saying, hypersonic weapons challenged NORAD's ability to provide threat warning and attack assessments for Canada and the United States. To meet that challenge, the Defense Department's integrated tracking capabilities between existing space, ground, and sea-based radars, he said that that capability is here now. The Space Force and Missile Defense Agency are co-developing hypersonic ballistic tracking from space using satellites. Apparently, the agency is working closely with the Navy to upgrade its sea-based terminal defenses to counter more advanced maneuvering and hypersonic threats. They're saying that the Aegis SBT is the only active defense available today to counter hypersonic missile threats. They call it a program called the Aegis Glide Phase Interceptor Program, which uses proven Aegis weapons system engage on remote network sensors to provide the depth of fire needed for terminal defenses. But obviously, it would still be very hard to intercept.
It is impossible. So, once again, it is not Russia, but the United States who have destroyed the system of international security. And they are trying to preserve their hegemony and stoking a global conflict. We have always preferred, and we still prefer, to resolve our disagreements using peaceful means. But we are prepared for any scenario. And if anyone has any doubts, they shouldn't. There will always be a response.
Interesting. One of the more interesting pieces to that is when he said that they always prefer peace over conflict, but they are the ones who invaded Ukraine. Regardless of what he said, I think most people are hoping that the upcoming administration will make every effort to try to negotiate a peace settlement with what's going on over there. But in the meantime, the Pentagon press secretary gave a press conference shortly after this event happened. She had some interesting things to say, especially when in regards to communication between Russia and the United States.
So I can confirm that Russia did launch an experimental intermediate range ballistic missile. This IRBM was based on Russia's RS-26 Rubezh intercontinental ballistic missile model. In terms of notifications to the United States was pre-notified briefly before the launch through nuclear risk reduction channels. For more, I'd refer you to state on that.
Okay, that means the United States knew this was going to happen. That means that they told us, and we knew because there are reduction channels, nuclear risk reduction channels. This is an interesting thing I'm going to read to you from some folks that reached out to me from the community that know more about this stuff than I do. So he said, the video about why Russia warned us about their IRBM launch ahead of time, you are precisely correct. The notification is so we don't assume it's a nuclear warhead coming our way, and we respond with the same exact force. We have procedures in place to detect potential nuclear launches. Only the President of the United States can authorize us to respond with nuclear force. However, the way the doctrine is written, if an incoming nuclear attack is assumed, there's a high probability of us responding with nuclear force. That's why it's imperative that other nations notify us if they're launching missiles. And it makes sense because you don't want an all-out nuclear war happening. Now, another piece that's important about this is the START Treaty. The START Treaty is the treaty between the United States of America and the Russian Federation on measures for further reduction and limitation of strategic offensive arms, also known as the New START Treaty. It is intended to enhance U.S. national security by placing verifiable limits on all Russian deployed intercontinental range nuclear weapons, and the United States and Russian Federation have agreed to extend the treaty through February 4th of 2026. Both the United States and the Russian Federation met the central limits of the New START Treaty by February 5th of 2018 and have stayed at or below them ever since. Those limits are 700 deployed intercontinental ballistic missiles, deployed submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and deployed heavy bombers equipped for nuclear armaments. 1,550 nuclear warheads on deployed intercontinental ballistic missiles, deployed SLBMs, and deployed heavy bombers equipped for nuclear armaments. Each such heavy bomber is counted as one warhead towards this this limit. And then 800 deployed and non-deployed ICBM launchers, SLBM launchers, and heavy bombers equipped for nuclear armaments. New START treaty verification measures. On-site inspections is the first one. It says the treaty provides for 18 on-site inspections per year for US and Russian inspection teams. Type 1 inspections focus on sites with deployed and non-deployed strategic systems, up to 10 per year. And Type 2 inspections focus on sites with only non-deployed strategic systems, up to 8 per year. Permitted inspection activities include confirming the number of re-entry vehicles on one deployed ICBM or SLBM per Type 1 inspection, counting nuclear weapons on board or attached to deployed heavy bombers, counting numbers of non-deployed ICBMs and SLBMs, confirming weapon system conversions or eliminations are conducted in the way proposed, and confirming facility eliminations. Part of this also is called telemetric information. To enhance transparency, the parties annually exchange telemetric information on a parity basis for up to 5 ICBM and SLBM launches per year. These measurements of various technical parameters are made to monitor missile performance during ICBM and SLBM flight tests. Strategic delivery vehicle and launcher notifications. This treaty provides for rolling notifications regarding the status, i.e. deployed, non-deployed, and basing or facility assignment of all strategic delivery vehicles and launchers. Notifications for dispersal of mobile ICBMs and ballistic missile submarines patrols are not required. This is the key point though. Ballistic missile launches. The treaty provides for pre-launch notifications of the launch of treaty accountable ballistic missiles. This is also consistent with both parties' obligation under the 1988 Ballistic Missile Launch Notification Agreement. The Ballistic Missile Launch Notification Agreement was signed in 1988 at the Moscow Summit, which was an agreement between Russia and the United States to reduce the risk of nuclear war as a result of misinterpretation, miscalculation, or accident. The agreement provides for notification no less than 24 hours in advance of the planned date, launch area, and area of impact for any launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile, or SLBM, which is the submarine launched ballistic missile. The agreement also provides that these notifications be provided through the nuclear risk reduction centers. The agreement entered into force on the date it was signed. The US-Soviet joint statement issued following the Moscow summit included the following statement. The agreement between the United States and the USSR on notifications of launches of intercontinental ballistic missiles and submarine launched ballistic missiles signed during the Moscow summit is a practical new step reflecting the desire of the sides to reduce the risk of outbreak of nuclear war, in particular as a result of misinterpretation, miscalculation, or accident. This is very important information. I don't think a lot of people realize that these treaties and these systems are in place to prevent an all-out nuclear war that ends in the extinction of the human race, because that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the Russians, not good for America, not good for anybody. At the end of the day, if you just look up the US-Soviet strategic arms reduction talks, or START, that would explain everything you need to know. But in any case, obviously this intermediate hypersonic ballistic missile didn't have nuclear armaments on it. Ukrainians Air Force said the missile targeted Dnipro in central eastern Ukraine and was fired from the Russian region of Astrakhan, which is more than 700 kilometers away, or 435 miles. The most significant aspect of the weapon was that it carried a MIRVed, which is a multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle payload. The regional governor of the area said that the attack damaged an industrial enterprise and set off fires in Dnipro, and 2 people were hurt, but it doesn't seem like it was as damaging as it could have been. I think it was definitely more supposed to be a message being sent by Vladimir Putin. In any case, crazy week. Sure, it's going to continue to get crazier. I know that President-elect Donald Trump has said that he wants to end the war with Ukraine as swiftly as possible, and I know that Vladimir Putin has also said that he's willing to sit down with the president-elect and discuss this stuff as soon as the current president leaves office. Although President-elect Donald Trump hasn't said specifically how he's going to end the war just yet, I know there's been talks about possibly setting out a demilitarized zone along the eastern edge of Ukraine in the occupied territories. Can't confirm that necessarily yet because I haven't seen any official releases of their plans for it, but I do believe once he takes office, he's going to begin trying to push for peace talks. In any case, hopefully in our lifetime, we don't ever see one of those be launched that does have nuclear capability, because that would be bad for all of us.